Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Inspire and Move. I am so excited to welcome a relatively new friend of mine, Jillian Murphy, to the show and to be a guest on today's episode. Jillian Murphy is a highly sought after sales and business mentor who has mastered the art of sales and scaling not only her own business, but has helped hundreds of other online business owners do that as well. With over 20 years of business experience in sales and marketing and growing multiple businesses of her own, she has now made it her mission to help online business owners gain real results in sales and messaging. Sales is truly the oxygen of your business and the most important skill any business owner can acquire. She has been able to grow her own business from 0 to 6 figures in 1 year, hit her first 6-figure month in 18 months, and just under $500,000 by year 2, all without any fancy systems, ads, or even a website. It was all done with the art of communication and the art of sales. Jillian, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. Let's dive in. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Inspire and Move. I am your host, Ali Aruda, and I am so excited to welcome one of my friends, Jillian Murphy, to the show for the first time ever. Jillian, welcome.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I am such a fan of you, such a fan of your show, and so honored to be here to pour into your community today.
Oh, this is just the best. So first things first, I know we have already kind of chatted about you before you even got here, but I would love, now that everyone is here and listening and excited, I would love them to know a little bit about you, what you're about, where you're from. Give us all the juice.
Yeah, all the juice. I always say, do I start with my favorite color? My childhood past. What do I say when people ask me this question? My name is Jillian Murphy. I spent 26 years in the corporate sales space, lost my job during the pandemic, literally had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew that I had a God-given talent for sales. And I quickly shifted to the online space where I saw that there was such a need for women and men. I work with both to really help them sell their products, programs, and services. I built my business very well in the last 3 years because there's not a lot of people that really teach sales and what that looks like, especially in the online space. I'm a mama. I have a 21-year-old. She works inside of my business. That brings its own challenges, but also its own benefits as well. I'm a 3-time cancer survivor, just packed up my life and moved across country from Michigan to Arizona. And I'm an open book, and I love to riff and talk about anything that is you want to talk about.
Oh my God, I love it. And I love that you're in Arizona. I mean, I feel like that's how it was one of the first ways that we bonded. We're like, we love it here.
Yes, I love it.
You live there and I don't. So I will be right behind you eventually.
Yes, come visit. We'll go have some kaleidoscope together.
Oh my God, I love kaleidoscope. Okay, so I wanted to first dive into your big transition. 26 years is a really generous amount of time. Was that always with the same company?
Yeah, so I was with the same company for over 20 years, and then I moved to another company for the remainder of it, and then we actually cut down from the top during the pandemic. And I always say, I had no idea that it was coming. I was a ride or die corporate person. I had no idea what entrepreneurship was. If I could have tattooed my corporate company on the forehead of my body, I would have. And I had no idea that it was coming, and it did, and it literally wrecked me to my core.
That's a giant transition, especially if you don't see it coming because it's so out of your control.
Yeah. But I have a really interesting story that I tell a lot on podcasts. So about 3 months prior to that, I had a lot of friends that were in the entrepreneurial space, and they were going to a mastermind called Fast Foundations. And I had no idea what a mastermind was. I had no idea who Chris and Lori Harder were. I had no idea who Nick Harder were. And I had no idea who all these people were. And they were like, hey, we're going to go to this mastermind. It's it was $6,000 or $7,000 in LA. They're like, do you want to go? And I was like, I'm down for LA. Sure, I'll go. I had no idea who these people were. And I went to this thing, and I was sitting in the room with all these people, and I was sitting at lunch with Nick Harder. And Nick Harder was like, what do you do in corporate? And I was like, oh, I help people sell. I work on messaging, marketing, social media, and content. And I help people make more money, more profit in their business. And he was like, do you see hundreds of people in this room? And I said, yeah. And he's like, they all need your help. And I was like, okay. And it literally went in one ear and out the other. And I didn't really pay attention in this mastermind. I was literally there just to have fun. And almost 3.5 weeks to the day, I lost my corporate job. Oh. And I remember what Nick Harder said. And I was like, what was that guy's name again? I found him on Instagram. I slid into his DMs and I was like, Nick, I think I need a business coach, like a one-on-one business coach. Who do you recommend in the room? And he recommended somebody. I invested $8,000 2 days after I lost my corporate job. I hired her. She was my business coach for 18 months. We blew up my business. And that's actually where my entrepreneurial journey started.
Oh my God, I have goosebumps. I did not know that story.
Yeah. I always tell Nick, I'm like, Nick, you like birthed my business with me. I'm like, you were great, but really it was Nick that did it.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. That is, Nick Harder's such a smart cookie.
So smart.
Oh my God. Okay. Woo, I'm buzzing. I have so many things. So before Fast Foundations, were you at all curious or sort of invested in like personal development?
No, not at all. I literally had a lot of friends who were like in entrepreneurship, and I literally would like make fun of them. I was like, what are you doing? Like, who was watching your Instagram stories? Like, who are you talking to? Like, what are you doing? I had no interest in it. I didn't really understand what they did. I was like, who buys these courses? Like, what are you doing? And then like, here we are like 6 months later and I'm like literally like doing the same thing as them. So it was a really big shift. But yeah, I had literally no idea what anybody did in the online space or really personal development or entrepreneurship. I mean, my people for personal development was like Zig Ziglar, John Maxwell, people who were like salespeople. I was always been obsessed with like Grant Cardone because he's like a sales genius, right? But other than that, like personal development, that was about as far as it went.
And now are you kind of obsessed with it?
Oh yeah, now I'm like a junkie.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm like a junkie.
You still invest a lot sort of year over year in terms of your own growth, correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep. So I have, my first year in entrepreneurship, it was well over 6 figures. To be in rooms. Last year it was well over 6 figures. And then this year it was well over 6 figures as well. Yep.
That's amazing. And for anyone listening, again, like we sort of have like both guys and girls, male, females that listen to the Inspire and Move show. Do you have any even like words of encouragement or advice if someone is totally novice of like what could feel good to get things started?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing that made me successful online is I found the people that I wanted to emulate or I wanted to be like, or the skill sets that I needed. And I didn't like dick around, right? Like I was like, who do I need to be with and how do I get in there quicker? And I didn't overthink it. And I really just bet on myself. And I just did a post on this yesterday too, right? Because I wired a huge investment yesterday too. And it was like, I just bet on myself. And I continued to bet on myself. And I didn't overthink it. I mean, even from the day that I lost my corporate job, I literally lost a multi-6-figure income. And I was like, hey, I could try to figure this out on my own. I could Google it. I could see what entrepreneurship is. I could take a course, or I could literally invest in somebody today that could get me there quicker. So I think those were some of the biggest things that I did. And the other thing that I think has been very crucial to my growth is I have been extremely focused with like either one mentor or one mastermind from the get-go. I had the same one-on-one mentor for 18 months, and I've been really with the same mastermind from the beginning, whether it was Fast Foundations or it's been Chris's Elite Mastermind. I haven't fluctuated a lot. And I think that's been something that's made me very successful. I haven't had a lot of people in my ear. I've had 1 or 2 people from day one that's been like, this is kind of the path, right?
And that's incredible too. I mean, it says a lot on both fronts, that you're getting a lot of value from the investment that you're making. And maybe it is feel like a bit of a stretch. You make these big wires, these big payments. You're like, ooh, that's a lot. And here we come. So that you know that you're going to show up and you're going to play full out because of that investment. Yeah. But that also says a lot about the person that is facilitating those masterminds and those rooms, that you're ready to reinvest in him or her again.
Yeah. I think that says a lot. And it also says a lot about the room that they've curated, right? The people that are also in there, because especially with a mastermind, it's not about the facilitator, right? I host masterminds all the time, and I'm like, don't invest in this for me, because the magic isn't me. The magic is the people that are in the room, right? So it says a lot about the people that curate the room and the people that are in there, because that's really where the magic comes from, right? It's not like the one-on-one mentorship that you're getting in a mastermind. It's the people that are in there. And it says a lot about the people that come through that room.
Oh my gosh, I could not agree with that more. And it's actually a perfect segue, because I wanted to dive into your mastermind that I know you just recently wrapped up, because when we last saw each other in Arizona, we were at Lori's Girlfriends in Business event, and you were getting ready to turn it around. You had just moved to Arizona, came to Girlfriends in Business, and then are about to turn a corner, like, oh, I'm just going to facilitate a mastermind, like, basically for a week. So let's learn a bit more about that for anyone, listening that doesn't know. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I actually hosted two events back to back within 10 days. The first one was an event called The Society, which is my version of my elite level mastermind, and it's a year-long program, and then they get a 5-day retreat inside of it, and it's pure magic. I mean, it really was. I brought the industry's best to it. We had people like Aisha Marshall, Lindsay Schwartz, Chris Harder, Jake Keffler. I had two girls that came in from Austin, Texas that talked about community building. We had Tracy O'Malley, Priscilla and Patty came into it and did some movement. Like, it was just epic. It was absolutely epic. And part of the things that were really important to me was really meeting the women where they were. While it was amazing to have these incredible speakers come in, it was also what each one of them needed, right? Some of them needed to really go deep on some mindset work. Some of them really needed some content help. Some of them really needed, some lessons from Chris. So some of those things were really, really important. And then it was really the bond in which they had. So something that was really important to me was that we all came together and they were in a house together for 5 days. So that was something that was really important. And then it was really watching the magic unfold in those 5 days together. So, I run very much in the masculine energy. So it was very much business strategy, masterminding. And then as the week progressed, we moved more into that feminine stuff, right? So we did some breath work, we did movement, and then I brought in the people that they really needed in order for that to happen. Because like I said, it wasn't about me, it was about what they needed, and then bringing in the right people to kind of facilitate those gaps that are not my zone of genius.
I love that so much. And I mean, even just watching it online and consuming it via Instagram, but also hearing it on your podcast, it sounded like the most incredible experience. And it's got to be just such an incredible feeling as a facilitator and host that who you're bringing into the room, who has invested in coming to the room, and then to just sit back and be able to watch it and feel it and see the breakthroughs and the transformations and the connections. How good does that feel?
There were so many times that I literally just sat back and Dakota was my event planner, and I literally just sat back and said to Dakota, everything we wanted is literally happening. They're going on a walk together. They're literally crying in the corner together. They're swimming in the pool together. They're bonding together. The conversations are happening organically. They're standing at the whiteboard building on each other's businesses, right? It was so beautiful to sit back and watch. And I did an Instagram post on this too. And I said, the most success I've had this year in my business was not a big Stripe payment coming through. It was not a dream client signing up. It was literally at that retreat when I sat back and we had this big open window and I saw all 9 of them sitting around this table, laughing, crying, cheersing. And I was like, that was the most successful moment of my entire year this year. And I was not going to host it again next year. And because it was so successful, I was like, it's an absolute hell yes, because it would be selfish of me not to host it again because of the transformation that they had.
Stop right there. I need to tell you about one of my favorite activewear brands, Alala. Alala is an athleisure brand that I absolutely love. Not only do they have some of the best activewear, but I'm kind of obsessed with how I can wear their pieces to dinners, meetings. I've actually worn them to masterminds and on the weekends. Everything that they design is sophisticated, but also really comfortable. I always feel so chic and vibrant when I wear Alala. Plus, they're also minority female founded and have an all-female team, which I think is really cool. So I called up my friend Denise, the founder, and got you guys a 20% off code. use code INSPIREANDMOVE on alalastyle.com. That's INSPIRE, INSPIREANDMOVE, Inspire and Move on alalastyle.com for 20% off. Happy shopping! Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. I have goosebumps and I want to come.
Sign you up. You're in.
Yeah, sign me up. Send me the link. Okay, now on that note, that this sounds like a really big celebration in your business for you this past year. How do you like to celebrate your wins?
Yeah, so I love to celebrate my wins, honestly, by taking some downtime, because I am definitely a hustler. I'm a grinder. So anytime that I have like a really big celebration, I tend to just take some time to myself, whether that's getting a massage or doing like some meditation or some sound healing or something like that. It's really about coming down from it after, and really being in like that type of energy. That's really kind of like how I celebrate it. Sometimes it's honestly like ordering in DoorDash and like watching some Netflix, and just like celebrating of what that really, really looks like. Because after that event, I actually had the weekend, and then I hosted my own roundtable at the Andaz, for another event in my mastermind. So it was like a back-to-back, like, I don't know, 9 days. So then after that, I was like, whew, I need to just like kind of chill. But it felt really good to kind of sit back and really celebrate it.
And what season are you in right now?
We are in the relaxing season a little bit. We are coming down. I had an incredible 2023. I also moved across the country. So we are in a little bit of like coming down season. But I mean, I'm always in the grinding, hustling, selling season. It's my nature.
I honestly feel like from the first moment I met you, I was like, yeah, that girl, she's a hard worker. She's a hustler.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's
I love
kind of
that.
who I am.
I think that we kind of find each other in those rooms as well. And I want to kind of dive into the rooms and community. I know community is really important for you. And clearly you are cultivating an incredible one within your business and your mastermind. What are some of your key components about creating community, or what really works for you? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me with creating community from the time that I really came online is I was just really unapologetically who I was. And I think because being unapologetically who I was, I attracted the right people into my community. They were either for me or they weren't for me. And I think that was something that I think a lot of people don't do when they're creating community. They try to appease everybody. And I really didn't. I was like, hey, this is who I am. And you're either going to be like on board with me or you're not. And I think that was a big part of my community because my people are just like me, right? Like we run a little bit more than masculine energy. We riff, we swear, like we are who we are. And I think that is really powerful in the community. And I didn't try to be something that I wasn't in the community space. And then the other thing was, I think for me was I really went first on a lot of things, and I allowed my community to kind of see me going first, and then they wanted to be part of it, right? So whether it was me investing in rooms or moving across the country or doing content that didn't seem like everybody else's, or joining a mastermind, whatever it was. And I think because of that, my community wanted to always be part of the next thing that I was always doing.
I love that. And I know another sort of fellow friend of ours, Marina Middleton, she's really good at bringing her community along. Like, hey guys, I'm doing this. What are your thoughts? A or B, vote here. And I think that's so fascinating too about I say online space as a really broad umbrella, because you have certainly the world of content creators that show up and share online, like under my personal brand, Inspire and Move. I share a lot of my life. Like I'll show you my workouts. I'll show you my space. I'll show up with sort of like no makeup on or like really bad gym hair. And I think there's something to be said for sharing the realness. Now, then there's like that line that you don't want to flirt with too much about, like, I don't want to overshare. Yeah. And so do you have any takes on that too, of just like how you show up unapologetically and like, this is authentically me. And I also echo what you said, like, you're not going to be for everyone. I've had a bit of a season of that recently where like, yeah, I know that. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, I know who I am. I'm super high vibe, high energy. I'm a cheerleader for other people doing big, awesome things. Yeah. Life is not always pretty. Sometimes life really, really sucks. Yeah. You said it yourself. You're a 3-time cancer survivor. That sucks.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to sit in that, like, life is sucky right now space.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you can come out and really be yourself authentically and how you shine and bring your community along, it's
Mm-hmm.
still not going to be for everyone.
Yeah, so I think for me, one of the things that is really important for me is that I want to bring my community along on the journey with me, and I want to show them what I'm going through, but I never want it to be, I call it like a Dear Diary moment. Right?
Mm.
I never want it to be like I'm dumping on my community. So a good example of this is I suffer from a lot of health concerns, right? So I never want to come on to my audience and say like, oh, this is how I'm feeling today. Oh, I'm feeling bad today. Or I can't get out of bed today, right? Like I never want to dump it on my audience. So what I'll say is like, hey, I'm lifing today, or this is what I'm going through today. Or I wait until I'm on the other side, and then I use it as like a teaching moment. So a really good example of this is Monday, I actually had a procedure done on my throat. And I could have got on my Instagram stories and I could have been like, oh, this sucks. I'm going through this procedure of my throat, blah, 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 whatever, right? And I could have dumped it on my audience. And I could have got a lot of stories. I could have got a lot of people sliding into my DMs and being like, oh, what's wrong? Woe is me, right? But I use it from a place of like, guys, I want to show you the duality of what it looks like to be a business owner and how you can do so much more than you think. This is what my morning looked like, and this is what my afternoon looked like. So for all of you that are sitting there today, maybe with a cold or maybe with a child that is home from school sick, I want to literally give you an invitation that you are more powerful than you think that you are. And what I do is I actually use it from a place of like empowerment. I did a masterclass last year, which was called Jillian Murphy Behind the Brand. And what it was everything that I went through last year while I was building close to a 7-figure business. And people were like blown away that this is what they saw online, but this is what was going on behind the scenes. But I taught it from a way of like, there's so much more that you can actually probably do and give yourself space for than you're actually doing. And what it was not from like, oh, look at me, I'm in a hospital bed or I'm in the ambulance again or all these things. But it was like, you can hold so much more space than you actually think you can. Like a good example, the day of Girlfriends in Business, I was actually in the hospital that night. But I don't come to my audience and show that, right? So sometimes I think it's like, you don't have to show everything. You can show the after and then use it as a teaching moment.
I love that. And you know what
Mm-hmm.
I've even found, and I love that you termed it a Dear Diary moment.
Yeah.
Because one of my big takeaways from Girlfriends in Business with the beautiful Jen Gottlieb,
Yep.
and then reading her, I
Yep.
like plowed through her book, which
Mm-hmm.
comes out October 31st. Everybody, you must get this book. Maybe put it in the show notes again. I feel like I've linked it almost every episode. Loved that book. Love her. And I
Mm-hmm.
love how she talked about open wounds and closed wounds.
Yes.
And it really resonated with me because in the middle of the pandemic, which was, not ideal for anyone, certainly not ideal for gym owners in the fitness space. And I'm kind of with you though. Like I could totally woe is me over and over again about that, but like that's not super productive. Yes, it's a part
No.
of our story, and entrepreneurship, it can be a bumpy roller coaster, but everybody went through that, and it
Mm-hmm.
for most people wasn't a great time.
Yep.
And in the midst of all that, I lost my dad really unexpectedly. And that
So
is
sad.
definitely like a trauma that I'm working through. And I would probably talk about that or refer to that as an open wound. Like maybe like a
Yes.
half open, half closed. I can talk about it to an extent, but then I
Yeah.
get that lumpy throat and then I'm like, whoop,
Yeah.
no bueno.
It's bringing tears to my eyes hearing you talk about it.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. Still very much working through that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's on the anniversary of my dad's passing in September. I did a vulnerable episode, and I remember texting one of my best friends. I was like, this is going to go one of two ways. Like there's a 50-50 chance this is going to be good and raw and will resonate with someone, or it's a 50% possibility this is going to be a train wreck. So it was okay. We'll go with
Yeah.
it okay. But I think that there is this beautiful balance of sharing, like, bringing along your community to an extent. And I love the way you describe that the duality, what a beautiful perspective. And I think that is such a great takeaway lesson for so many people listening, especially if you're entrepreneurs, but
Yeah.
I think for anyone that
Yeah.
you can have a shitty day and you don't
Yeah.
have to dump all over someone. but you could turn that into this whole other perspective.
Yeah, and you don't have to always tell them while you're going through it, right? So I got diagnosed with POTS about 6 months ago, and it's a heart condition, health condition. And I first started talking to my audience, and I said like, hey, I'm going through something right now, and like I'm not ready to share about it yet. But when I am, you guys will be the first to know about it. So it was still such an open wound that I didn't want to come on my stories and be like, this is what's going on. My life's a shit show. It's a train wreck. Like, because also I'm trying to build a business. So what I don't want is people to be like, I don't want to hire this girl. Like, can she even hold space for me? Is her life falling apart? Like, what is she doing? Right. So it's like, you don't need to always share at the same time. I see this a lot with my clients. It's like maybe they're going through a divorce, or they've lost a child, or they're moving or something. And it's like, don't need to share it right now. Share it after. And you also need time to heal it, and you need to grieve it, whatever that looks like. Even a loss of a pet, right? It's like, you need to heal it. You need to grieve it, and then come out on the other side. And then this is the other thing. My community is my podcast, right? Like, I go deeper on my podcast than I do on that. So when I did decide to share what had been going on with the POTS diagnosis and behind the scenes, I said, for anybody that wants to know what's going on behind the scenes of my life, I dropped a podcast episode. So for those people, go to the podcast, because what I'm not going to do is drop it on my Instagram stories for Allie that just started following me last week, who's like, WTF, I just started following this girl. What is going on? I'm going to share it for the people that are really engaged with me. And that's what I said. Hey guys, you guys are my people. You guys are my ride or dies. You guys are my podcast family. I'm going to share it here first. I'm not going to share it on my Instagram stories, because like, that's not also the place to share a lot of those like deep wounds.
I love that. And again, I think that's a lesson for everybody listening. And it resonates with me too, because I mean, I don't have a lot of good days, but there are definitely days that I have not great days. Sometimes I roll into Benchmark and I find one friend that unfortunately, I'm like, I need to just dump for like 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. It was really boiling up inside of me, and really sorry for talking your ear off about what's happening in my life right now. But sometimes I think when you're a leader and super high energy and high vibe, and you hold space for a lot of people, sometimes you need that outlet, and it might just come out in like not a pretty package. But I think there's a lot of value in what you're saying about the duality, but also kind of holding it close to your heart. My dad used to always say, like, when you have stuff going on, keep those cards close to your chest. And I feel like I'm really trying to practice that now as I'm in this like different growth season of my life. Is, Allie, you do not need to share everything. Keep those cards close to your chest. And there will be a time where you can, flip them the other way and you can share them. But I think having that mindset and that action of not oversharing all the time is really, really smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
Do you find that, you've had a journey and you've gone through some challenges 30 times. How do you feel when you come out of that? How does that change your level of motivation?
Yeah, I think that the reason that I am so motivated in life is because I know how like precious life is. And I know how like easy life can be like taken away. So I think that has really set me up for the person that I am today, right? Like, life is short and it can be taken away so easily. So I think that is what sets me up for my motivation. And it's actually a big part of like the movement that I have right now, the movement that I created, which is Be Her Now. And it's like, don't wait for life to get here. Don't wait for the dream job, the dream husband, the dream position, all of those things, right? Like, I am living in Arizona because the person that I want to be wants to live in Arizona. And I didn't want to wait 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, whatever, to live in a place that I was obsessed with. I was like, who does she want to be today? She wants to be someone that's living in Arizona, because I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 months from now. So it's like, be the person that you want to be now, and then watch your life radically change differently for you. I mean, I even have it tattooed on my arm, like Be Her Now, because it's literally like how I live my entire life.
I love that. I was just having that conversation with a girlfriend at the gym this morning. We unfortunately share the commonality that we've both lost our brothers. I lost mine years ago, and she lost hers only a few years ago. And we were just kind of regrouping on that. It kind of comes every once in a while. And you can hear my dog barking in the background, like SOS.
Yeah.
That's a small one. So for all the audience that can hear Molly barking, that's her. But so we were talking about that, and that was when I was going to university. So I was much younger. But now fast forward where I lost my dad 2 years ago and still very much working through that open wound. But something drastically changed. Like when I lost my brother, that was a really unfortunate reminder that life is precious. So I could not echo that more, and how it is so fragile. You don't know how long you have. But then when I lost my dad, it was like my level of motivation, it was like the roof just popped off, where I was like, I have so much I want to do and create, and this energy I want to be, and the person I want to be, this empire I want to build. And I'm always fascinated when people either, go through a loss or a personal hurdle, health scare, health experience, how that changes. And it's a conversation that's just more recently come to my mind, that I'm was just curious to see if that landed anywhere for you in terms of what you've gone through. But I love that you made that decision to move to Arizona for you. That was something that you wanted.
Yeah, and I talked about this on a podcast episode where I actually shared like why I was moving. And, I've had the same boyfriend for 6.5 years, and he's still in Michigan. He's back in Detroit. And I remember I did a solo trip out here for 6 weeks, and I had said to him, Jason, I want to move to Arizona. And he was like, we'll move there when I retire. He's got a phenomenal job back in Michigan. And he said, when I retire, we'll move there. And I was like, I'm not waiting. Like, I'm not waiting 20 more years or 10 more years, whatever it looks like. Like, we don't even know if we're guaranteed that time, right? Like, anything could happen. Like, I'm going to move back there, and I'm going to literally be her now. I'm going to literally move there now. And whether or not you come there, which obviously he's not here, but like, I'm going to go and live that life now, because I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't know what life brings. And I want to live a life that like I'm obsessed with. And also like I'm a leader, right? So I can't have a movement where I'm like, oh, be her now, but then I'm living a life that like I'm not obsessed with. So like I will always be in integrity. And if I'm going to teach something or share something, I'm going to go first and do it.
Good for you for taking the action. And as you said, you are being her. Yeah. Now, what are you currently working on? Like, what are you currently working on?
Yeah, so I feel like it's always a bit of a circus in my life. You can ask my mentor, Chris Harder, that. He's always like, what do you have going on now? It's always a little bit of a circus in my life. But, the signature products in my world are, I'm obsessed with masterminds, but I'm also obsessed with long-term mentorship. So my masterminds run either a year or they run 6 months. I always have like pop-up programs that I run. And then I'm really building this Be Her Now movement. So we have some cool merchandise behind it. And that's really what I have going on. The bread and butter of my business is one-on-one mentorship. I love having my hands inside people's business, whether you are a brick and mortar business, whether you are a product-based business, whether you are a realtor, whether you are a coach. That's really where I do a lot of my best work. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. I'm always growing the community. I'm always growing the podcast. I'm super excited. We just crossed 25,000 downloads on the podcast. So yeah, thank you. If you're not listening to the podcast, thank you. If you're not listening to the podcast, I'd love for you to get it in your ear. It's my baby. I love it. And yeah, that's what we're working on. Just growing the brand, growing the business.
And you are doing some hot girl walks in Arizona, are you not?
We are doing hot girl walks in Arizona. Kind of like Allie. Like I was like, what do I like want to create that like isn't here? And I was like walking every week by myself in Arizona, and I'm like, I want some friends. So if you are in the Arizona area, Scottsdale, Tempe, Phoenix, and you want to walk with me, right now they're free. We're doing them every other Friday, and it's just a way to connect and collaborate and build in-person community. So it's a really fun time. So slide into my DMs, and we'd love to have you. And it's hot as shit here still, so bring lots of water.
Lots of water and wear a tank top.
Yeah. Basically walk in your bathing suit because it's hot as shit.
Oh, I love that. So we're going to link everything in the show notes, but any lasting words of encouragement, energy, things that are coming up for you, let's dive right in. Anything you have?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, if you're in Allie's world, you're obviously a go-getter and a community builder. So just continue that. Stay super, enthralled in your own vision and your own community, and make 2024 your best year yet. Be her now.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, we're definitely linking everything Be Her Now because I need to check out this merchandise and I love the tattoo. So
Thank
hey,
you.
maybe we'll need some matching tattoos.
I'm here for it.
Jillian, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for pouring into the Inspire and Move audience. I am so grateful to have this opportunity to chat with you and just connect on a deeper level. And I'm also really excited to learn about all of your 2024 offerings and masterminds.
Amazing. Can't wait to meet you more.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening. Have a great afternoon, evening, weekend, wherever you are. Thank you for listening, and we will see you here again soon. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.